The other distinguished personalities at the head table, Attorney Gigi, President Boy Reyno, Chairman Emeritus Emil Jurado, Ambassador Antonio Cabangon Chua, my colleague in Congress, Congressman Bobby Di Maporo, Ambassador Eddie Espiritu, of course, the other distinguished personalities here, my colleague in Congress, Senator Honasan. You know, I was reluctant to accept this role as the introducer because I was so intimidated to introduce one of the most imposing personalities in Philippine politics and in Philippine government. But then somebody sent a back channel to convince me. So how can I say no to a back channel? You don't say no to a back channel, or so they say. Our awardee, I call him a man for all generations, a man of phenomenal staying power, indestructible. That's what it says in the program. But then since I'm a Navy man, I call him unsinkable, unsinkable Johnny. His political biography has traversed 2 centuries, and he continues to run. A dominant figure in the last 30 years of the 20th century, an even more dominant figure in the first 12 years of the present century. While others of his generation have long been gone, he's still around. He's still a rising star, and his approval rating is at record high. Born, of course, we all know that he was born Juan Puruganan. But you know, Manong Johnny, I was able to talk with some families in your hometown. I understand that you come from a very remote fishing village. This did not, I don't know if this appeared in your biography, and I understand from the families that I met and got to talk with, Vince, for example, Mayor Peralta, Parang Bakli, kaklase na raw sa elementary, naging mayor sa Bandoy de la Cruz, naging board member ng probinsya ninyo, patay na pero nakausap ko yung mga pamilya niya. I understand that the name of your remote fishing village was Kabanbanan in Gonzaga, Cagayan. At ang kwento ng inyong classmate po, a story of your classmate in elementary, is that you used to walk that long distance to your elementary school, and you were wearing a short made of katsa. Katsa is the material from the sako of harina, sako ng flour. That is the story of your classmate, and that's correct. And at the same time, naglalakad daw kayo, but then the good mayor of Gonzaga at that time, a certain Mayor Peralta, hired you, when you were still in elementary, hired you to be the pastol of his kalabaw. So during your PE break, you would go out and moonlight and be a pastol of your carabao. And of course, you were only an elementary student then, but you were able to handle an animal maybe 10 times your size. And of course, that helped you, that is helping you now. Now that you are a heavyweight, it is helping you handle a lightweight in the political environment. Outstanding daw kayo sa elementary, sabi ng inyong classmate. At maraming ang binanggit ng mga pangalan. Manong Johnny was the 21st to occupy the position of Senate President, the 18th to occupy the position of Secretary of National Defense, and the 19th to occupy the position of Secretary of Justice. This is quite a combination, rare combination that only Manong Johnny can boast of. And of course, Manong Johnny has figured very prominently in so many milestones in our history. The first time I saw him was in 1970 when he was a newly minted Secretary of National Defense, shortly after my graduation from Annapolis. And of course, the first memorable episode in the history of the country where Manong Johnny figured prominently was martial law in 1972. I was then the duty officer in Malacanang, Presidential Economic Staff, when martial law was declared. Then of course, EDSA 1986. This is not very well known, but when EDSA 1986 started in the late afternoon hours of February 22, 1986, from my office in the post office as Postmaster General of the Philippines at that time, we drove straight to the office of the Minister of National Defense. I went up to his office, went alone with him in his office and looked at him straight in the eye. And I asked him, Mr. Minister, you are my mentor in government. I would like to ask you, is this really a very serious move on your part? And with steely eyes, he told me, yes, Mr. Postmaster General. And I said, okay, Manong Johnny, I'm going to join you right now, and the rest is history. Of course, the 1987 election, Manong Johnny survived that rout, one of the two survivors. Can you imagine Manong Johnny winning an election where he had no governor, he had no mayor, he had no barangay captain out of the thousands and thousands of political personalities at that time, but he made it truly unsinkable. And then in the election of 2010, let's move fast forward, a lot of people thought that having been elected in 2010 and winning back his position as Senate President, he would quietly ride into the sunset. A lot of people thought that, until, of course, the impeachment of 2012. And again, the rest is history, because we were awed by the brilliance of the man as the presiding officer of the impeachment trial of 2012. And again, we said, well, maybe Manong Johnny is going to rest and ride quietly to the sunset, until last Wednesday, September 19, the back channel of 2012. And of course, we don't know whether the rest is history. You know, Manong Johnny and I have been working together for about 2 years now. He's the chairman by constitutional mandate of the Commission on Appointments. I happen to have the privilege of being his vice chairman, being the head of the House contingent in the Commission on Appointments. And there, I saw his fairness, his sense of fair play, and his sense of justice. And there were at least 2 or 3 occasions where he had to intervene in order to prevent the commission from being converted into something for the private interest of a member of the Commission on Appointments. There was an instance where a member was badgering almost no end a very senior member of the cabinet, and finally Manong Johnny intervened, and that ended it. There was one time when somebody was trying to hostage 130 generals and other senior officers in order to promote the interest of one officer who was not included in the lineup of the promotion. But of course, Manong Johnny came into the picture and prevented again from someone from using the Commission on Appointments for his own private interest. I was in the Senate last Wednesday, September 19, for the CA hearing, and I thought the highlight of the day was going to be the kiss and make-up story between Secretary Rojas and Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago and the confirmation of Secretary Rojas. I thought that was going to be the highlight of the day, until on the drive back to the House of Representatives, I asked my driver to turn on the radio, and all of a sudden I was so startled to hear the voice of Senator Juan Ponce Enrile delivering a speech. And of course, that was a very strange speech. I heard the fieriest segments of Senator Enrile's speech on the back channel. From Camarines Sur to the West Philippine Sea, the most sensational segue in parliamentary debate. The attack started in Camarines Sur, and the counter-attack was launched in Scarborough or Panatag Shoal. Offense is the best defense, as they say. The nation saw live on TV the master at work. A new term has been added to our political lexicon. The nation saw, before we had backstabbing, which is very common in Philippine politics, then back off, then back o, and now back channel. At Annapolis, we were taught in day one the laws of the salt mine, and one of them is a very important law on survival. Don't fence with Zorro. Last Wednesday, we saw the Zorro of the Senate in action with his elegant parliamentary thrusts and slashes, and the rest is history again. Ladies and gentlemen, the man for all generations, the master of political combat, JPE, the unsinkable, the President of the Senate, Juan Ponce Enrile. And to learn more about the man that is Senator Juan Ponce Enrile, let's watch this.
Upon the opening of the 15th Congress on the 26th of July 2010, he was elected by his peers to the Senate presidency, a position which he holds to this day on his fourth term as a senator. Almost 2 years later, the good senator makes good on his promise to this day to discharge his duties and responsibilities with honor, with total devotion to the Philippine Senate as an institution, and with fairness to all its members, just like what he did when he was first elected Senate President in the 14th Congress in 2008. He had recently shown his faithfulness to his promise again, when as presiding officer of the Senate, sitting as an impeachment court to try and decide on the impeachment case of Supreme Court Chief Justice Renato C. Corona, the good senator presided over the impeachment court with the same level of legal astuteness, brilliance, and thoroughness as he did as a trial lawyer in his younger days. The Honorable Senator earned his Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of the Philippines College of Law. He finished Cum Laude and class salutatorian of Class 53, ranking 11th in the bar examinations with a 90.95% average, one of the highest in the history of the bar. He scored perfect in commercial law, and the examiner must have been so impressed that in the good senator's examination booklet, he wrote, "If he should ever need a job, please contact me." He didn't know he was looking at a future Senate president. That was almost 60 years ago. 2 years later, in 1955, he obtained his Master's of Law degree from Harvard University, specializing in taxation and corporate reorganization. He practiced law for more than 10 years as a partner at the Ponce Enrile, Sigyong Reyna, Montecillo, Bello, and Anciaco law offices. He never lost a case in his career as a corporate and litigation lawyer. The good senator, recognized for his expertise in taxation and finance, was appointed Undersecretary of the Department of Finance in early 1966 and went on to serve as Acting Secretary of the Department and concurrently served as Acting Insurance Commissioner, Chairman of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of the Philippines, and Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs. 2 years later, his integrity and reputation held before the Philippine Bar earned his appointment as Secretary of Justice. He left the Justice Department on February 9, 1970 after he was appointed Secretary of National Defense. It is perhaps as Secretary of National Defense that he is remembered by most. To his detractors as the architect of martial law, to his friends as the genuine hero of the EDSA Revolution, as he held this historic people power revolution that served as model for subsequent bloodless revolutions all over the world. His career as a lawmaker began in 1978 when he first served at the Batasang Pambansa as the Assemblyman from Cagayan and continues to the present as the Senate President with congressional stint in between. recent years as a legislator, he was given priority to refining fiscal measures to make sure that the government's need for revenue is balanced with the protection of the masses from undue tax burdens. He has also given equal attention to measures that review the performance of the power sector, believing that there is a need to ensure that power costs and electrical charges must be fair to the consumers and that all industry players must enjoy a level playing field. It is small wonder that the advocacy he took up in the 2004 Senate elections was to lower electricity rates. To fulfill his campaign promise, Problema Mo Sagot Ko, the senator meticulously studied and filed a bill proposing major amendments to the Electricity Power Industry Reform Act, or EPIRA.
Congress enacted the Electric Power Industry Act, popularly known as EPIRA, in 2001.
The Honorable Senator does his homework and does it well, being active in plenary debates and constantly vigilant over vital pieces of legislation taken up on the floor, the list of which might not fit in this presentation. At 88, he is still tirelessly pursuing major reforms such as the new antitrust legislation, which he authored many years ago. He championed the very recent passage into law of the People's Survival Fund, another milestone and a sound proactive response to enable local communities to survive the inevitable and disastrous effects of climate change. The poor Ibanag boy, Juanito Furaganan, from Gonzaga, Cagayan, has come a long way indeed. By whatever name he is called, Juanito to his beloved mother, Petra Furaganan, and stepmother, Purita Juan Ponce Enrile, Johnny to his siblings and friends, Tito Johnny to his nieces and nephews, Lilo to his grandchildren, Manong Johnny to his colleagues and supporters, Boss to his staff, he stands uniquely as the quintessential JPE. By any endearing name they may call him, and by any description people refer to him, his over 6 decades of service to his country and his countrymen are worthy of their gratitude and pride.
Join me on stage in presenting this most prestigious award. I'd like to call back 365 Club President Attorney Boy Reyno and Chairman Emeritus Attorney Emil Horado, together with the Honorable Vice President Jejomar Binay.